We were just having a very interesting discussion in the break about how you mentioned that in the Tibetan system that they don't make the distinction so clearly between emotions and cognition, or that's not the distinction that's emphasized.
Uh-huh.
And from there, we were exploring whether how the two compare cognitions and conception.
I see.
And just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yes. Before I answer the question, let me share with you one story, a story, or rather, around one happening. I'm doing translation, right? So very often I come across the term cognition in the neuroscience. We had hard time. We had hard time nailing it down to say something. But in the interesting, I came across one expression in Lamrim, Lamrim Chemu, when it is dealing with the topic of tempa and sheshin, mindfulness and introspection. So it was making the case that mindfulness basically is cognitive in nature. That's how I understood it. And the way it expresses that in Tibetan came really handy, that might be it. Because we don't have a specific term for that, but in terms of explaining it in a long way, which could be then contracted to make into a term. That's where I got a clue, and I was, as you say, I right away flagged it, and then shared it with my colleagues. Until then, we were resorting to conception, which is different from cognition. So it very directly connects with your question. So earlier we were using the term conception for cognition, which is, despite the fact that we know that this is not complete, but we had to come up with something. So it was very difficult. And for emotion, we had to switch from 1 to 2 to now we have a third shot at the term emotion. Yes, from a Buddhist perspective, conception or conceptual thoughts. By the way, conception or conceptual consciousness should necessarily be a thought. So should necessarily be conceptual, which means thought. They may or may not be cognitive in nature. There could be some which are cognitive, some maybe not. Because I'm thinking of, say, compassion. Compassion, I think. Yeah, actually, the question is whether compassion, bodhicitta can ever be non-conceptual, perceptual until you attain Buddhahood. Yes. So for that reason, I say compassion. Take the case of compassion or bodhicitta. Not bodhicitta in the continuum of a Buddha, but bodhicitta in the continuum of sentient being. There would always be conceptual as well as cognitive in nature. Oh no, not cognitive. Conceptual in nature, but not cognitive. And then in the case of eye sense consciousness and likewise sensory consciousnesses, those would all be cognitive in nature, but not conceptual. Yes. No. Cognitive as a mental state which the primary function is of ascertaining something, ascertaining the nature of something. ascertaining the nature of something, not so much into feeling, or not so much into emotion, not so much into affection, but whose primarily function or primary identity would be more aligned to ascertaining something. It could be ascertaining wrongly also, but ascertaining correctly also, but nonetheless have the primary function of ascertaining something rather than what would be rather than feeling, rather than emotional, rather than being kind of a moving, rather than kind of a moving consciousness, something.
Primary mind.
Which one?
Cognition.
I see. Not necessarily.
Because sometimes Rigpa is translated as cognize, and that just refers to every single mind. That's an attribute of every mind and every mental factor. They all cognize their objects. So I'm not clear on what you mean by cognize here.
I see.
It sounds like you're talking about the main mind, the primary mind.
I see. No. Because once you associate main mind with the cognition, then all of its mental factors surrounding it would all as well be in the same nature. You can't have main mind being conceptual or cognitive, and then others being, what did I say? Main mind being conceptual. No, we're mixing it up. You're right now talking about cognition, right? Cognition.
I'm just trying to understand what you are saying by cognition, because my understanding was every single mind is a cognizer. Every single mind cognizes its object. But
Yes. Yeah. What I meant is in the way the Western science use cognition. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because there the distinction is between cognitive and emotive, cognitive and affective. So based on that, what they are getting at in terms of cognition would be not necessarily conceptual, but some could be conceptual. So that's what I meant. But you're right, because Rigpa, when it is used, translated as cognizer, that should be applicable to every consciousness from a Buddhist perspective. But in Buddhism, we do not use the term cognition separately. Then separate from as it is used in the West. So that's what I meant. Yeah. So from a Western point of view, not every cognitive consciousness is conceptual. We take the sensory consciousnesses into account. And not every conceptual thought is necessarily cognitive in nature from a Western point of view, because that could include thoughts, emotions like love and compassion. So it's tricky. It's tricky. How you, from which perspective you are approaching it.
So Geshe-la, in the meditation this morning, Venerable Chuni was leading, and she asked us to bring to mind bodhicitta, the aspiration to help liberate all sentient beings from samsara. And what gets in the way of you going after that, of really getting behind it and wanting to pursue it? And so what came to my mind was, it's impossible to liberate limitless sentient beings, because that means that samsara would end, and therefore there would be no Buddha. So is there a way to reason through this block that I have? I just, it sounds like it's an impossible task, so it's therefore irrational to pursue it. That's kind of where my mind goes. I can totally get behind liberation, personal liberation, but then every sentient being is like, yeah.
I see. Yes. that ties in with the question of whether there is end to samsara or not. In the text, the answer is differently. For auspiciousness, right? They say that for auspiciousness, yes, there is end. For practicality, for reality, it depends whether every sentient being make effort or not. So the answer is not conclusive. So it is not so much about whether you are able to liberate all sentient beings or not, but from your part, you have all the capacities. So that's what you are aiming at. Like, I am not going to fall short of anything necessary. Anything that would take for me to be able to liberate sentient beings. But yes, liberation is a two-way process. Right? For anything to happen, it has to be two-way process. But on my part, I will not be lagging behind in any of the requirements. So that way one could pursue. And then yes, in the meantime, one would be able to liberate so many. And at the same time, being able to actually actualize that is dependent on how viable, how viable, or how fertile the ground is. But on one part, there will be nothing lacking. So that's what one is preparing. And of course, in the meantime, one will be able to liberate so many. That's for sure. Even before attaining enlightenment, there will be so many people that will be benefiting from oneself. Because it is very obvious, like we know something and we care to share how much we can touch. Right? How many people that we can touch in a really genuine way. And that's even given the fact that we don't have the path of seeing. We don't have clairvoyance. We don't have the actual way of knowing who they actually are in terms of their base, very intricate makeup. But still then we're able to help out some. And what you can speak of when you become fully awakened, which means knowing every detail of a person, in terms of what to teach, how to teach, which would even take the form of teaching slightly in a skewed way, skewed way, because that's what fits them. So that means the process will depend on how fertile the others are. But on one's part, lacking nothing, be that compassion, wisdom, etc. Yeah, so that's how I want to be encouraged. Yes. So that way, then one could still feel encouraged to generate. Yes. Yes, please. Yes, okay. I'll come to you. Yes. Yeah.
Geshe,
yes.
Oh, was it reporting to me? Or?
Yeah, you.
Sorry.
You.
I'm sorry. Well, when you said that we should thank others for pushing our buttons, I'm afraid maybe my wife got the wrong idea about that.
I see. Of course, when you thank others, you thank not openly. Oh. No, that's what I meant. Thank quietly. No. Okay. Unless you really feel very certain that yes, I really need it. I really need a quick promotion. If you're really eager to really get a quick spiritual promotion, and then you think that not come what may, I can withstand, then do tell them.
I do have one quick question.
Okay.
But in other Buddhist traditions that don't have altruistic intention, the result is different, I guess, because the motivation is different. Mm-hmm. But couldn't there be still have altruism in that tradition in a deep sense?
Mm-hmm.
Can that still exist in, for example, the Pali tradition?
Oh, yeah. First and foremost, Pali tradition do appreciate bodhicitta. That's how Buddha got Buddhahood. So the concept is already there. Concept is there, and how there are others who are practicing is there very easily. And one thing that I have noticed over the years is how Pali monks, practitioners, even nuns from different countries converge in Dharamsala to receive teachings from His Holiness. That's because I have sensed, I have heard from people that there is a growing awareness, growing recognition among the great masters there that at least His Holiness must be Bodhisattva. So they have full appreciation. It's like, yes, someone is capable of being Bodhisattva, but for me it's a little difficult, it may take too long, it is too deep, like that. But they definitely appreciate it. And they appreciate, and they have no choice but to do so, because Buddha, the way to Buddhahood is not by pursuing individual liberation. They make that distinction very clearly. They may not have that as elaborate system in describing it as we find in Tibetan Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, or whatnot, but the what do you call? The concept is there. The what do you call? The provision is there, definitely. And then, even given the fact that, very interesting. I have a story to tell. At Emory, at one point there was a Vietnamese student who had come to study, and before coming, he had taken monkhood in Burma for a month. So he was studying under them, and then he has a girlfriend who has some problem. It's very interesting what kind of a problem she has. How they even themselves admit is something linked to karma, coming from some past. But it's very disturbing. So when she's hit by that, it's very disturbing, very debilitating. But otherwise, she's very smart and pursuing her medical education, etc. So when he came, before he came, and in Burma when he was monk, he would ask the elders, his teacher included the elders, for some help for her. And they would try their ways, and it didn't help as much. And then they would eventually know that he was going to Emory. They asked him, get to see His Holiness. And then he also told me that he asked the master, why are you not pursuing Buddhahood? Why not generate bodhicitta? No, it will take too long. There's this sense of earnestness attached to that. Really. And then I have heard, I couldn't get that complete detail, but there was a lady, devotee of a very high, famous Theravadin master, maybe in Burma or somewhere, Thailand. So he was, what do you call, reaching the end of his life, and she would ask him, who should her approach after he passes away? He says, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So that clearly shows the appreciation of the value of bodhicitta, except if one could. That would be considered to be a very rare thing for someone to do and someone to succeed. And then over the years, they weren't that open in the early times. even to Buddhism, even to Tibetan Buddhism, because there has been an ongoing, traditional, ongoing, what do you call, debate over whether Tibetan Buddhism is authentic or not. But then over the years, they have seen his works, his teachings, the impact. That's how they are even coming to Dharamsala and to Delhi, because His Holiness cannot visit Thailand, Burma, because of political reasons. So they are coming in groups in Delhi to have discussions with him. So far, the discussions have taken place on Vinaya, the monastic precepts and monastic rules. And eventually it may extend to Abhidhamma, I'm very sure. Because that way it will enrich both the traditions mutually. So yeah, the appreciation is there. I mean, it is rooted, even for us also, when we say we want to achieve Buddhahood, how genuine is it? How really do you mean? What about liberation? I mean, it's something we need to question. So they are doing that with earnestness. And we, as pursuing Buddhahood, should also be as earnest, as genuine. And then that means a genuine sense of genuine spirit of determination to be free from samsara for oneself to begin with, and then along with that, seeing how others are also in the same boat, and they need to be helped out, and thus not merely stopping at individual liberation, but then pursuing further, advancing further into wishing to achieve full awakening. So that's the only way to go about. And then we have to see how genuine it is, how deep-rooted it is, how really, sincere it is. And we need to work on that. Otherwise, it is like saying, if we find the samsara okay, samsara good for us, which means if we have not developed genuine sense of liberation from samsara is nothing wrong, it's good. Then on the other hand, if you say, oh, I'll lead all others to Buddhahood, it's almost saying, I want to put them in some other place that I don't like. I like here. This is where I'm going to stay, but for the rest, I want to put there. That shows the gap between what you say or what you superficially, or in your genuine, superficial level of mind, you think you go about doing it, but how grounded it is, how sincerely rooted it is. So yeah, so that's the situation. Yes. Yes, please.
Geshe, I'm one of the keepers of the unresolved questions.
Pardon?
Maybe I'm one of the keepers of the unresolved questions that have come up in our classes.
Uh-huh.
So a couple of questions.
I see. You're the keeper.
Well, one of them. I'm sure others are
Okay.
collecting as well.
Okay.
This may be a difference in Drepung and Sarah Yiksha's, but
I see.
is
Oh, you're getting into Ikchas.
Well, there's different points of view.
That's definitely valid. That's very good to have access to, because that's very enriching.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for as important topic as whether Gokten, true cessation, is emptiness or not, right? It's a huge topic, and the Ikchas take different stand, and then when you understand them, both of them is so enlightening and so enriching. So yeah, definitely one should have access to different Ikchas.
Okay. The first
Except,
one.
I may share this later on. Okay, yes.
Is self-centeredness an obscuration?
Yes, I addressed that earlier. I addressed that. It is an obscuration, obstruction.
Obstruction.
It is an obstruction to a bodhisattva, to actualizing its a bodhisattva's aspiration. That I will say. Otherwise, it is not necessarily an obstruction to attaining liberation. That's how I would say. Although the Tibetan term Rangchenzi, the Tibetan term used in the context of Shravakas and is Rangdön Yije, means Rangdön Yije. Venerable, please help me. And Rangdön Yije, Rangdön Yila Jeba. I see. Yes. Yeah.
Attention on one's own aim.
Yes. Rangdön Yije, attention on attending to one's own aim. Usually, that's the term used as opposed to Rangchenzi. Rangchenzi is cherishing self or self-centeredness. Rangchenzi. So literally, it means so. It is difficult to see difference between the two, but somehow, in regard to Shravakas and Patheka Buddha's aspiration to attain individual liberation, this particular Rangdön Yije, this particular term is used, but at the same time, that's what is contrasted with bodhicitta. So I don't see any difference between Rangdön Yije and Rangchenzi. So I lump them together as self-centeredness, but not necessarily, as I said, not necessarily sliding into negativity. Not opting, not self-centeredness, willing to slide into harming others. Because their self-centeredness is such that it protects them, restrains them from harming others for their own good. Whereas usually, in our case, we can be so self-centered that we'll be willing to. We'll be willing to harm others if it needs to be. So not in that category. So what I'm saying is, self-centeredness by per se is not obstruction. Within that, you can make distinction. So that's what I'm saying.
Covering all bases. Okay. And when is self-centeredness abandoned?
Pardon?
When is it completely abandoned?
I see.
Or eliminated?
Oh yeah. When you say overcome, then yes, I can jump. When you say eliminated, eradicated, what was the other one? Abandoned. It's difficult. When you say overcome, this is very interesting. In the case of bodhisattvas, three stages of their advancements have been recognized when they could be said to have overcome self-centeredness. For the sharp intellect, sharp faculty bodhisattvas, the path of preparation. At the path of preparation, that is the second path, even before the path of seeing, they could be said to overcome self-centeredness. In that, they develop a confidence of not losing bodhicitta, period. But for the less sharp faculty members, not faculty members of any not faculty members of any university.
The middling capacity.
Yeah, for the middling capacity practitioners, bodhisattvas, Yeah, it's part of, thank you, part of seeing. When they become Arya being, then they develop that confidence. Whereas for the rest, they wait until the eighth bhumi. So path of preparation is preceded by the first path, the path of accumulation. So next is path of preparation. That's when the sharp faculty, bodhisattvas develop that confidence, and the middling level they develop at the path of seeing, which is the next. And then during the path of meditation, not until the eighth bhumi, which is 7 bhumis in between, right? Since the path of seeing and 6 bhumis in between, not until eighth bhumi they develop that confidence. Some may be lucky to just cruise through, but they are not considered that confident. They have to always be on guard. Once you have confidence, you can just be at ease. Come what may, now this is not going to lose at all. So that's, and in the scriptures, not that I know each and every detail, it's so interesting. It even gives signs for outsiders to look for, whether they have that confidence within them or not. So they have some behavioral signs that you can look at. And it is counted as 44, and it's divided into these 3 sections. 44 such signs you can see, you can look at. It's so interesting. Those are indicative of their... The actual term used is irreversibility. So irreversibility. So when some bodhisattva is referred to as irreversible bodhisattva, it is not that it's not irreversible in the sense that they do not reverse back, but irreversible in the sense that they have gained that confidence of not reverting back into non-bodhisattva practitioners. Did I make it clear? So what I meant is, I said some could be lucky, some less sharp faculty members could be lucky, right, to cruise through, right? So in a way they were irreversible. In a way they didn't reverse, but they were irreversible until they hit the 8th path, because that's only when they gained the confidence. So so depending on what category you belong to, those stages could be considered when they would have overcome self-cherishing. But in terms of whether it is abandoned or eliminated or not, that's a little difficult, because when we say elimination, then it takes into account even the subtle latencies, subtle traces of them, potencies of them, which even when we retain the potencies, it is possible that we do not have any, manifest crystallization, manifestation of the particular mentality on the surface. We may not see any of the full-blown mentality on the surface, but they festering, but there could still be the potential. So that's the reason why I'm not so sure to say when they eliminate it.
My puzzle is that when you say that it's on the basis of confidence that they have, that's unshakable. So is it confidence in the possibility of becoming a Buddha, confidence in their own capacity to become a Buddha,
I see.
confidence in the fact that all beings can be freed?
Yeah.
What's the confidence?
Yeah, okay. That's very, very clear, very good. Yeah, confidence to keep bodhicitta with them, not lose it at all. So that means now cruising straight to Buddhahood. It may take long. It will depend on how much effort they may make. But in terms of being on the track, they will always be.
And that's the measure.
Yeah, that's the measure. I use the term confidence, but the actual term used is chirmendokpa, irreversibility. They become irreversible bodhisattvas in that they would not lose their bodhicitta. and fall back into someone pursuing self-liberation. So no matter what they may come across, they would not feel discouraged. People could be so rude and whatnot, but they would not lose their confidence. They would not lose their bodhicitta, the strength of bodhicitta. So that's what it meant. Until then, one has to be very cautious. It's almost like keeping an egg, carrying an egg. Yes, please.
I thought that happened on the middle path of accumulation.
Pardon?
On the middle path of accumulation on,
Mm-hmm.
there's no losing of bodhicitta.
So that may be, I don't recall, but usually we say the sharpest that happens on the path of preparation in terms of the irreversibility. But yeah, I mean that's very clear that I remember. But did you say middle?
Losing bodhicitta.
Yeah, losing bodhicitta may not happen from them, but they have to be still cautious. That's what it may be, what you're referring to. But in terms of, yes.
There's a story about Shariputra losing his bodhicitta, and that was because he was on the a lower path of the the lower phase of the small phase of path of accumulation.
I see.
But if you get to the middle phase of the path of accumulation, then there's no chance to lose your
I
bodhicitta.
see.
So there's that, and then there's the irreversibility.
I see.
Which,
Okay. Yeah.
which you
So,
spoke of.
yeah. So I think it may be the case, but I remember very clearly that's the irreversibility. It is at the path of preparation, or maybe there is a difference in the rikchas also. Or who knows? Or maybe reference. But if I have to defend in a debate my position, then I must say, oh, that's a case of someone just being lucky not to lose, but not confident necessarily. So,
is lucky the same kind of thing that we're talking about when we use the word coincidence?
oh yeah. Even to be lucky, there has to be causes and conditions, because of the very fact that we are not always lucky. And we are lucky sometimes and not sometimes. Oh, that's very clear indication that it's dependent on cause and condition. Actually, I'm using this reasoning straight from the scriptures. Say, this is impermanent because it is occasional. So lucky is occasional. It happens occasionally, and the very fact that it is occasional, it means it waits when the conditions are right. But then when we say lucky, right, it is a way of saying that I didn't prepare for it. I didn't expect it. I don't think I contributed to it, or that I don't clearly see what had made that happen. So something like that.
So Geshe, is it the case that for a practitioner who has developed bodhicitta, so a bodhisattva, they take bodhicitta from life to life? Does it mean that it occurs then spontaneously, or do they have to work at generating it, and is it just easier for them to generate it from life to life after it's been generating the path?
Remember, when we take bodhisattva vow, we take it for until we attain full enlightenment. Not like Vinaya vows, which we take only for one lifetime. So, and then yes, there are methodologies or propositions, should I say suggestive means by which one could remember bodhicitta in the next life. Pardon?
I said, okay, so what are they?
I think, like you rescinded from asking the question, I see it is not the right time to share. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. No, for me, it is not the right time because I left my spectacles, glasses, and I have some written things here. Not that I can recall from the top of my head. Pardon? It's not on the slide. It is secret. Well, it is in the notes, but in Tibetan. And the notes, yeah, but maybe she's asking me to. Yeah, actually, it's already time now. I thought, but it will be coming. I'm not going to keep that totally away from you. I have planned to. I plan to share it. Yeah. So yes, there are practices to do, as well as certain services, actions to do. Those are suggested to be able to then remember. When you remember, you don't have to take Bodhisattva vow anew. Even if you happen to take, that would not be equal to taking afresh, but rather renewing it. In some cases, some indications can click. And that is even said to happen not necessarily when you are born as human beings, even as animals also. You can be born as a very kind animal, except something got in the way to put you in the animal realm, but you still retain the bodhicitta. And they can be so kind animal. Have you seen very kind animals? These days, it's amazing. It's amazing with the social media. Wow, we can get so much. I mean, you have seen those children, very young age, without being told, saying, "No, I don't want to eat meat. It is not good." I mean, with their own genuine, sincere, right? Where would that come from? I saw that one with the Tibetan monk and one with the Western young girl speaking to her mother, and she has her own reasonings. It's so, and they really mean it. They cry. No, don't kill them. This is not good, or something. Where would that come from? Apparently, mother doesn't have that, because mother is surprised. How come this is coming from this? How come these big words are coming from this small mouth? And understandably small mind. How come these big thoughts are coming? So yeah, social media in that respect is so good, unless they are photoshopped. That needs to be very careful, because these days it's almost like you can do just about anything. That's sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But yeah, thank you for raising that question. Yeah, I'll be very particular in mentioning it.